Beneath the stones of ancient temples, where incense once curled into the rafters and chants echoed like living memory, something older still waits. It is not carved in the columns or painted on sacred walls, it lies deeper. Down steps worn by generations of bare feet. Behind sealed doors no hand has touched in centuries. Beneath the altars where gods were fed and secrets whispered, there are vaults that speak only in silence. These are not just crypts or ceremonial chambers. They are the whispering vaults, hidden spaces beneath humanity's holiest structures that seem to pulse with forgotten purpose. Many cultures, scattered across continents and millennia, built upward toward the divine, and downward into the unknown. As if they feared the heavens and worshipped something older beneath the earth. The Egyptians built substructures beneath their temples, layered with mystery and precision. The Hindus carved sanctums into rock, descending toward a spiritual gravity. The Mayans tunneled beneath their pyramids, guided not by architecture, but by prophecy. Even in the ruins of ancient Europe and the remote monasteries of Asia, sacred places hold lower levels unmarked on any plan, unspoken in any scripture. But why? What was so sacred that it had to be buried alive? What truths were so potent they had to be locked beneath faith itself? Some say these vaults were mere storage, or tombs for the high priests. Others believe they were spiritual retreats, places for meditation, or rituals hidden from public view. Yet, scattered accounts suggest something deeper. An ancient Hindu manuscript speaks of a subterranean chamber of light below a temple in Tamil Nadu that no one has entered for over 1,000 years, its seal unbroken. In Egypt, legends surrounding the Temple of Hathor at Dendera tell of a secret crypt where star maps older than the pyramids are hidden. And in Jerusalem, whispers endure of the Well of Souls, a chamber under the Dome of the Rock, said to be the mouth of something ancient, something still listening. Wherever the divine touched stone, the ancients left a downward echo. And what echoes down there is not always comfort. In 1909, a controversial article in the Arizona Gazette told of a hidden vault beneath the Grand Canyon, allegedly filled with statues and writings in an unknown script, guarded by the U.S. government and linked to a lost Eastern civilization. The Smithsonian denied involvement, but the story never quite died. It joined a long lineage of suppressed discoveries and archaeological oddities that vanish as quickly as they appear. Coincidence, or the result of deliberate silence? It's not only the places but the patterns that haunt us. Why do so many of these underground spaces share uncanny similarities, precise alignments, forbidden entrances, acoustics that seem engineered to amplify thought itself? Who were these engineers? And were they building for themselves, or for something else? The more we dig, the more we find that ancient temples may have served as interfaces between the world above and something sacred, and possibly sentient, below. Their architecture tells a story, but the voids beneath them hold the final chapter. The forgotten chapter. This isn't about treasure hunts or secret societies. It's about what happens when humans encounter the ineffable and try to build over it. Try to contain it. Sometimes we mistake containment for protection. But what if the vaults weren't built to protect us from what's inside, but to protect what's inside from becoming forgotten? Tonight, we descend into stone corridors where light fails, into sealed rooms where sound folds into itself. We'll explore the temples of India, the ruins of Central America, the catacombs beneath European churches, and the unspoken levels of the ancient world that still live just beneath our feet. You won't need to believe in myths or miracles. Only in patterns, and the silence that follows them. Because sometimes the most important words are the ones no one was ever meant to say aloud. And somewhere, beneath the dust and doctrine, those words are still waiting. There are places in India where the earth itself seems to breathe. Ancient stones sweat with unseen moisture, and the air, thick with centuries of incense and prayers, feels dense as water. Here, the sacred is not only worshipped above ground, it descends into the bedrock, carving sanctuaries deeper than memory itself. Temples in India are not only monuments of faith but also vaults of hidden intention, and beneath their towering gopurams and elaborate mandapas, their real mysteries lie sealed in darkness. The Padmanabhaswamy Temple in Kerala stands as one of the most famous examples. Rising with a golden facade that glitters under the fierce tropical sun, it hides beneath its foundations a labyrinth of subterranean chambers. In 2011, when the Supreme Court of India ordered the opening of these long-sealed vaults, what emerged stunned the world: gold, jewels, ancient coins, riches beyond imagination. Yet, one door remained unopened. Vault B, guarded not only by heavy steel but by a legend whispered among priests, that the vault is protected by a curse, and that its contents are not meant for mortal eyes. The doorway bears the sacred depiction of a cobra, and it is said that only a priest who knows the Garuda mantra can safely open it, an art and lineage long lost. No amount of modern technology or legal authority has yet breached its threshold. And so it sits, a sealed mouth in the temple's underbelly, promising silence and terror in equal measure. But this is only one story among hundreds. Across India, the pattern repeats: hidden chambers, ancient seals, forgotten rites. In Tamil Nadu, the Meenakshi temple's underground passages have long been the subject of local lore, whispered about by elders who warn children never to stray too deep. Some claim these tunnels extend for miles beneath the city of Madurai itself, connecting with other sacred sites, forming a vast and unknown network. There are no official maps, no official acknowledgement, just locked gates and shadowed corridors, guarded by those who serve but do not speak. Even more mysterious is the Sri Ranganathaswamy Temple, also in Tamil Nadu. Encompassing 156 acres with 7 concentric enclosures, it is a city unto itself. Beneath its sanctum lies an ancient chamber, sealed and almost entirely forgotten. Legend tells that within its walls, hidden knowledge of cosmic cycles was once preserved, writings so potent they could change the course of history. Yet the doors have remained untouched, the key to their mechanism a lost art, and the temple's priests, generation after generation, uphold a silent agreement: some things must remain buried. The significance of these underground spaces goes beyond wealth or fear. In Hindu cosmology, the universe itself is often depicted as layered, realms stacked atop one another, from the earthly to the infernal to the celestial. Temples mirror this structure. The Sanctum Sanctorum, or Garbhagriha, represents the womb of the universe, the place where creation begins anew. It is no coincidence that many Garbhagrihas are located deep within the temple structure, reached by passing through increasingly restricted and darkened layers. Descent is not merely physical, it is spiritual, a journey inward toward the origins of being itself. Yet somewhere along the timeline, the true nature of this descent blurred. What began as spiritual practice evolved into architectural tradition, and eventually, the original purpose of these lower chambers was forgotten, or deliberately obscured. Were these vaults once meditation cells for sages seeking to strip away the layers of illusion? Were they storehouses for artifacts from civilizations predating the known world? Or were they something else entirely, interfaces between our world and another? Certain clues point toward interaction rather than isolation. Ancient Indian texts speak of beings called the Nagas, serpent-like entities who lived beneath the earth and were guardians of treasure, wisdom, and sometimes, cosmic secrets. The legends portray them not as mere mythological creatures but as sentient intelligences, keepers of a knowledge too potent for ordinary humanity. The Naga kings built sprawling underground palaces, called Padala Lokas, and these subterranean realms were accessed through temples, caves, and sacred wells. It's tempting to dismiss these tales as pure mythology, yet their persistence across millennia and their echoes in other cultures suggest otherwise. If the ancient builders believed they were establishing a link between the surface world and the domains of the Nagas, then these sealed vaults might not be hiding treasure for human hands at all. They could be seals designed to maintain balance, to prevent ancient agreements from being violated, or to hold in place forces that once walked freely among us. In Ellora, Maharashtra, the Kailasa temple stands as a monolithic mystery, carved directly from a single rock face with such precision that modern engineers marvel at its impossibility. While the temple above ground is breathtaking, local traditions speak of deeper layers still unexplored. Some even claim that beneath Ellora lies an ancient network extending hundreds of feet downward, closed off by rockfalls and earth shifts, or by deliberate intent. The reasons vary from preservation to protection to something far more unsettling: containment. We find another clue in the stories of Shambhala and Agartha, mythical underground cities said to exist beneath Asia. In some versions, these realms can only be accessed through secret entrances hidden in remote temples and mountains. Travelers who stumbled upon such passages, accidentally or otherwise, report encounters with beings of immense knowledge and unsettling presence, often warning them never to return. Modern expeditions searching for these hidden cities inevitably end in dead ends, government restrictions, or suspicious silence. Are these just romantic legends? Or echoes of a once-open connection between humanity and something deeper, something deliberately buried by the passage of time and the calcification of official history? In a small, almost forgotten temple in Karnataka, an inscription was found carved into a stone wall. Translated, it reads, "The keys are not lost. They were never meant for hands." The words are old, older than the temple itself, according to geological analysis of the stone. It suggests a deeper truth, that what lies beneath sacred spaces is not meant to be possessed but acknowledged, honored from a distance, respected as a living contract between humanity and the forces beneath. We have built our religions on the sky. We have prayed to gods above. But in India's ancient temples, there is an unbroken thread pulling us downward, toward the earth, toward the ancestral and the primal. It is there, in the whispering vaults, that the original agreements were made, the promises and protections that have allowed civilizations to rise, fall, and rise again without losing the thread of their own becoming. To disturb these vaults is to awaken a memory too deep, too old, too powerful for modern minds. Perhaps that is why the seals remain untouched. Why doors crowned with serpents and guarded by riddles continue to deny access, even as centuries erode stone and ambition. India's silent depths are not relics of superstition. They are, perhaps, reminders, warnings, or invitations. But an invitation to what, and from whom, that remains the greatest mystery of all. In Egypt, the desert speaks in riddles, and the stone remembers everything. The temples and pyramids, bathed in the sun's merciless gaze, are monuments to a civilization obsessed with eternity. But the true enigmas of Egypt do not bask under the sky, they lie beneath, hidden behind sealed doors, buried in bedrock, protected by curses older than memory. Egypt's sacred architecture was not only a bridge to the heavens, it was also a gate to the unseen depths. And the vaults that whisper under the sands still carry the breath of the unknown. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as the crown jewel of these mysteries. Rising 481 feet into the air with an impossible precision, it has been measured, mapped, and scanned countless times. Yet it continues to resist full understanding. For centuries, explorers believed the pyramid contained only three main chambers: the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and an unfinished subterranean room cut directly into the bedrock. But in 2017, a groundbreaking discovery shattered that assumption. Using muon tomography, scientists detected a vast hidden cavity above the Grand Gallery, completely inaccessible, completely unexplored. They called it the Big Void, but beyond its name, they know almost nothing. No one knows its purpose, its contents, or why it was hidden so thoroughly. Was this an accident of construction? An architectural quirk? Or was it deliberate, a sealed vault, left untouched for millennia, guarding something ancient Egypt intended never to reveal? Even older than the pyramids, the Osirian at Abydos offers another chilling clue. Unlike the surrounding temples, the Osirian plunges into the ground, its massive granite blocks suggesting a style and technology alien to its supposed era. Its construction methods remain unexplained. Beneath this already subterranean structure, rumors persist of deeper levels, now flooded and inaccessible. Some believe the Osirian predates known Egyptian civilization by thousands of years, a relic not of Egyptian ingenuity, but of inheritance. A vault from a time when knowledge was passed not through scrolls but through stone. The tradition of sealed chambers extends across Egypt's sacred geography. Beneath the Temple of Karnak, tunnels and sealed crypts are said to spiderweb through the earth, their access points either lost to time or deliberately hidden. Ancient texts refer to chambers of the morning, secret places where initiates could commune with the divine directly, places where the veil between this world and the next thin to transparency. These were not symbolic journeys. They were physical descents into constructed realms beneath the earth where the gods themselves might listen. Modern archaeology often dismisses these accounts as mythologized allegory. But why, then, do we find evidence of deliberate concealment? Why do so many temples have shafts, false doors, and blind passageways, leading nowhere, or perhaps leading to somewhere carefully denied? In the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, an infamous relief depicts what appears to be oversized light bulbs connected by snaking lines, guarded by figures holding two-pronged rods. Official explanations call these stylized lotus flowers and representations of creation myths. But alternative researchers suggest something more radical: knowledge of ancient energy manipulation, hidden and protected beneath layers of religious symbolism. Beneath the temple itself, crypts were discovered, filled with mysterious artifacts and carvings not found elsewhere in Egyptian iconography. And still, sealed doors remain, too dangerous or too sacrilegious to open. Egypt's obsession with the afterlife is well documented. Tombs, mummies, pyramids, all constructed to guide the soul into the next world. But perhaps the physical arrangements of these structures point to an even deeper truth, that death was not the final destination. That some vaults were not for the dead, but for the not quite dead, entities or energies trapped between worlds, needing containment, needing isolation. The story of the Serapeum of Saqqara deepens this unsettling possibility. Beneath the sands near the Step Pyramid, a series of immense stone sarcophagi, each weighing up to 70 tons, were discovered in long corridors. Officially, they are said to have housed the sacred Apis bowls, venerated in ancient Egypt. But the sheer size and construction of the boxes defy easy explanation. Cut with laser-like precision and sealed into narrow tunnels, they suggest a technology and a purpose far beyond simple burial. Some researchers have proposed that these boxes were not coffins at all, but containment vessels, designed to hold something dangerous, something capable of interacting with the physical world in ways we no longer comprehend. The ancient Egyptians wrote of beings called the Neteru, gods, yes, but not entirely spirit. They were intermediaries, hybrids between mortal and divine, capable of shaping reality. The earliest depictions of these beings portray them walking among humans, not floating above them. If these beings existed, or if the Egyptians believed they existed, then the sacred vaults may have been more than shrines. They may have been binding places, contracts in stone, ensuring that ancient powers remained beneath the surface. There is evidence to suggest that the Egyptians did not invent many of their core myths, but inherited them from a predecessor culture, one erased from official history. Legends of Zep Tepi, the first time, describe an era when gods walked openly among men, when the foundations of civilization were laid by those who came from the stars or from the primeval mound. Temples like those at Giza and Abydos were said to have been built as reflections, replicas, of these older, now vanished sanctuaries. The underground vaults, then, are not anomalies. They are the true architecture, the core purpose around which the visible structures were draped like ceremonial masks. The temples above ground are invitations. The chambers below ground are contracts. The legendary Hall of Records, said to be buried beneath the Sphinx itself, haunts the fringes of archaeology. Early accounts by mystics, clairvoyants, and even respected scholars spoke of a hidden library containing the lost knowledge of Atlantis, sealed beneath the paw of the Sphinx. In 1993, ground-penetrating radar scans revealed large, unexplained anomalies beneath the Sphinx's enclosure. A rectangular chamber appeared where none should exist. Yet no official excavation followed. Permission was denied. Silence fell, heavier than the desert air. What, exactly, waits beneath Egypt's sacred monuments? If we take the ancient texts seriously, we must confront a radical possibility, that ancient Egypt was not a civilization reaching for the stars, but a civilization remembering a fall from them. And that beneath the temples, beneath the deserts, lie the remnants of that memory, vaults not built by the Egyptians themselves, but inherited, protected, feared. Modern Egyptology hesitates to touch these ideas. Not out of mere skepticism, but perhaps out of something older, something inherited, a cultural memory that some doors should remain closed. The priests of old swore oaths not only of secrecy but of protection. To disturb the vaults was to disturb a fragile balance. And whether we believe in ancient gods or forgotten technologies, that balance still hums beneath the stones, waiting. Even now, tourists flock to Egypt's ancient sites, walking unknowingly over sealed portals. Cameras flash against hieroglyphic walls, guidebooks recite sanitized histories. But just below, mere meters away, lie chambers untouched by human hands for thousands of years. Vaults sealed not with mere stone, but with intention, protection, memory, and perhaps warning. Egypt teaches us that history is not linear. It is layered, like the stones of a temple, like the strata of the earth itself. To dig into the past is not simply to uncover, it is to awaken. And in the whispering vaults beneath Egypt's sacred temples, something ancient still sleeps. Or perhaps it waits. In the dense, breathing jungles of Central America, temples do not simply rise, they emerge. As if the earth itself once surged upward in a moment of divine impulse and then froze in stone. The Mayan and Aztec civilizations, long vanished yet never truly gone, built temples not only as platforms for the gods but as layered structures, pyramids upon pyramids, secrets within secrets. Beneath the jaguar-masked gods and serpent-lined stairs, these ancient cultures dug deep. And it is in those depths that their voices still whisper, muffled by time, tangled in roots, and sealed behind rock. The Temple of the Inscriptions in Palenque, Chiapas, Mexico, is perhaps the most iconic example. For centuries, it stood as a silent guardian, its stepped facade climbing into the jungle mist, offering no hint of the abyss below. But in 1952, a Mexican archaeologist named Alberto Rusluwilier discovered a hidden staircase, sealed behind a stone slab. It descended steeply into the earth, humid and narrow, leading to something thought impossible, a funerary crypt, perfectly preserved, holding the sarcophagus of the Mayan ruler Pakal the Great. Carvings on the lid of his tomb became the center of a fierce debate. Were they depictions of his journey into the underworld, or something far more cosmic? Some saw him ascending into the stars aboard a machine. Others saw metaphors. The truth, as always, may lie in the architecture itself. The temple had been built not just over the crypt, but to hide it, to protect the portal beneath. This was not an anomaly. At Chichen Itza, beneath the towering pyramid known as El Castillo, or the Temple of Kukulkan, scientists discovered in 2015 a previously unknown cenote, an underground sinkhole filled with water, directly beneath the structure's center. Sacred wells, or cenotes, were central to Mayan spiritual practice, believed to be portals to the underworld, or Xibalba. But the location of this particular cenote suggests intentionality. The pyramid was not merely built on sacred ground, it was built to align with and seal this natural threshold. The layers of the pyramid mirror the 9 levels of Xibalba itself. And if this was a map of the underworld, then it was also a lock. What, exactly, it was meant to keep in, or out, remains unspoken. Elsewhere in the Yucatan Peninsula, archaeologists have found sealed doorways within pyramids that lead to nowhere, rooms built without entrances, and staircases abruptly ending in stone. Are these the results of changes in construction plans, or do they serve a more cryptic purpose? In 2018, researchers uncovered a vast network of interconnected tunnels and caves beneath the Mayan city of Tikal. Some led beneath temples. Some led beyond the city. And some led nowhere, sealed with slabs inscribed not with art, but with warnings. Xibalba, the Mayan underworld, was not a hell in the Christian sense. It was a place of trials, darkness, and transformation. The hero twins of Mayan mythology descended into Xibalba not to be punished, but to outwit death itself. Their journey was detailed in the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Kichmaya. The path led through rivers of blood and scorpions, houses of knives and jaguars, ending in a confrontation with the lords of the underworld. This journey was mythic, but also architectural. It mirrored the path through the temples themselves. The layout of certain Mayan cities may have been designed as ritual maps of this descent, with specific chambers corresponding to mythic locations in Xibalba. If this is true, then some of these subterranean chambers were not merely structural, they were ceremonial thresholds. Initiates might have walked these paths in darkness, undergoing trials designed to strip the soul bare before spiritual rebirth. And those who failed, what became of them? The Aztecs, too, built their temples in layers. The Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan, now Mexico City, was expanded in 7 successive phases. Excavations have revealed multiple underlying structures, and beneath them, a sealed chamber still unopened, believed to contain sacred offerings, or perhaps something else entirely. In 2015, archaeologists uncovered a circular platform beneath the Templo Mayor dedicated to the god of the underworld, Mictlantecuhtli. The site held not only human remains but strange artifacts arranged with meticulous care. One chamber, nicknamed the Black Box, remains sealed to this day. The officials in charge have delayed opening it, citing structural risk. But whispers persist that it is not the structure they fear collapsing, it is the silence they fear breaking. Even further south, in Guatemala, the massive ruins of El Mirador, predating Tikal, are only beginning to reveal their secrets. Buried beneath overgrowth and soil, the site contains massive pyramids, many of which have not yet been excavated. Local lore speaks of speaking stones and hollow gods buried beneath them, entities that were bound by those who knew the language of the world, not its tools. Indigenous guides who lead researchers through the jungle often pause at certain hills and say, "That one breathes." And then they move on. Modern archaeology, bound by funding and permits, hesitates to chase myths. But myths persist for a reason. Oral traditions passed through centuries speak of underground rooms beneath temples where voices echo strangely, and time dilates. of caves where blood vanished into the floor, of sealed vaults guarded not by locks but by stories designed to make you never ask again. And yet, we ask, why did these civilizations invest so much in what could not be seen? Why did they place such importance on the downward journey, the descent, the sealed space? Some researchers suggest that the temples were built atop naturally occurring energy nodes, points of geomagnetic anomaly or telluric current. Caves and sinkholes in these regions exhibit strange magnetic behavior, disorienting compasses, and sensitive electronics. What if these ancient builders knew more than we do today about the flow of Earth's energy? What if the chambers below the temples were designed not only as gateways for the soul, but as stabilizers, conductors, or even prisons for something we no longer remember? The Spanish conquistadors were notorious for destroying indigenous temples and rewriting the histories of the people they conquered. But even they recorded tales that unnerved them, temples that wept, vaults that hummed, priests who bled stone and vanished into earth. Some accounts described sacrificial rituals where the blood did not soak the floor but vanished into grooves that led downward, toward chambers no one was allowed to enter. And then there are the vaults we cannot explain at all. In Honduras, beneath the ruined city of Copan, archaeologists uncovered a chamber with murals that do not match any known Mayan style. The pigments are older than the surrounding structure. And beneath that, sonar scans revealed a cavity, sealed, irregular, humming faintly in a frequency outside human hearing. The project was quietly paused. The cavity remains undisturbed. What we find beneath the temples of Central America is not just architecture, it is intent. These civilizations did not simply bury their dead or store their offerings. They built labyrinths, sealed spaces, inverse sanctuaries. As if the gods did not descend from the sky, but rise from below. As if the silence beneath the temple was the true altar. In the end, it is not only the chambers that whisper. It is the void itself, the spaces left empty by design. The darkness carved intentionally into stone. The temple is not complete without its shadow. And in that shadow lies the memory of a pact, between the living and the dead, the seen and the unseen, the surface and whatever came before it. The whispering vaults of Central America are not yet fully open. But they are listening. And someday, they may answer. Beneath the forests and cathedrals of Europe, behind the stones that hold prayers and war alike, lie chambers built not to be seen, but to be remembered. Europe is a continent saturated in faith, its soil fed with centuries of ritual, sacrifice, fire, and silence. Its sacred sites, from megalithic sanctuaries to Gothic cathedrals, are often layered over older beliefs, older gods, older fears. And hidden within these layers, underneath the altars and crypts, are vaults that do not serve the doctrines written above them. They belong to an older current, one that still pulses beneath our feet. The island of Malta, often overlooked in histories of ancient Europe, holds one of the most enigmatic structures ever uncovered, the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni. Discovered in the early 20th century, this subterranean temple dates back to at least 4000 BCE, possibly earlier. Carved entirely from living limestone, the hypogeum descends over 3 levels, its chambers, corridors, and altars buried beneath the surface as if retreating from the light itself. The acoustic properties of the oracle room are extraordinary. A single voice, uttered at the right frequency, resonates throughout the entire complex. Some researchers have speculated that this effect was not incidental, but purposeful, designed to induce trance states or communication beyond language. Over 7,000 skeletons were once found here, packed into the lower levels, many with elongated skulls, stirring endless controversy. The official record is silent on the matter now. But the whispers remain, that the hypogeum was not simply a burial chamber, but a bridge, a technology made of stone, meant to access something beneath or beyond. The notion of accessing deeper realms through architecture is not foreign to Europe. In the heart of France, Montségur Castle sits atop a lonely peak, once the final stronghold of the Cathars, a Gnostic sect obliterated by the Catholic Church during the Albigensian Crusade. The Cathars believed in a dualistic universe, a world created by a false god, and another, pure, real, but hidden. They claimed that this world was accessible, that it could be reached through spiritual refinement, and perhaps, through architecture. Beneath Montségur, carved into the mountain itself, are tunnels and rooms without clear purpose. Some say the Cathars hid a treasure there, not of gold, but of knowledge. A book, a relic, or a truth too dangerous for empire. The Cathars were not alone in this belief. Across Europe, heretical sects, mystery schools, and secret orders constructed chapels and sanctuaries with cryptic symbolism and subterranean echoes. In Portugal, the Quinta de Regaleira estate in Sintra hides beneath its Gothic gardens an initiation well, a spiral staircase carved deep into the rock, never meant for water, but for ritual. As one descends, carved symbols from the Templars and Rosicrucians appear, suggesting this was no simple folly of a wealthy dreamer. It was a reenactment of descent, into death, into knowledge, into the ancient memories sealed beneath the polished civilization of Europe. The Templars themselves, legendary warrior monks of the 12th century, are surrounded by stories of underground vaults. Their churches often contain round rooms, mimicking the Holy Sepulchre and secret of lower levels. After their brutal suppression in 1307, many Templar sites across France and England were seized and sealed. In some, underground chambers were later discovered, empty, undecorated, but architecturally precise. Were these places of hiding? Or were they always meant to be empty? Not containers, but vessels. The Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, a masterpiece of esoteric symbolism, holds beneath its ornate floor what some believe to be the remnants of a buried vault. Scans have revealed anomalies beneath the crypt, spaces that remain inaccessible due to preservation laws. The chapel's carvings contain motifs from Kabbalah, Freemasonry, and ancient pagan traditions, each competing for dominance, yet somehow harmonized in stone. Some say the vault beneath contains the Holy Grail. Others say it contains records from a forgotten age. Still others believe it was a receptacle, waiting for something, or someone, to return. But these vaults are not all architectural. Some are geological, modified caves, sacred since prehistory. In the Czech Republic, the Hauska Castle was built over a large, unnatural hole in the earth, said to be a gateway to hell. Legends say the hole emitted inhuman screams, and that the castle was built not to house nobility, but to seal the rift. Its chapel was placed directly above the pit, as if to sanctify a wound. Soldiers sent into the pit in the 13th century reportedly returned aged and mad. To this day, the lower levels are sealed, and locals do not linger near its foundations at night. In Italy, the Etruscans, precursors to the Romans, left behind subterranean necropolises whose purpose remains elusive. Their tombs were not only places for the dead, but possibly sites of transformation. In Cerveteri, the Banditacha necropolis contains chamber after chamber carved from tufa rock, mimicking houses and dwellings. It's as though the dead were not simply buried, but expected to live on, in a mirrored realm. Some theories suggest these structures were designed not for the deceased, but for the initiated. A place to encounter what lies beyond the veil, through controlled descent into artificial underworlds. Even the mighty Vatican has its secrets. Beneath St. Peter's Basilica lies the Vatican Necropolis, an ancient Roman burial ground, rediscovered in the 1940s. Among the tombs and crypts lies what is believed to be the final resting place of St. Peter. But deeper rumors persist, of older chambers, pagan shrines never dismantled, vaults not open to the public, storing objects and scrolls that predate Christianity itself. Within the labyrinthine Vatican archives, an underground library of some 50 miles of shelving, rumors tell of forbidden texts sealed from public access, containing knowledge that could unravel history as we know it. This is not merely religious precaution, it is preservation. Protection. The deeper one explores Europe's sacred vaults, the more one encounters a repeating structure, not of stone, but of silence. Rooms that are there, but unexplained. Chambers clearly constructed, but with no historical record. Entrances that exist, but are locked. It is the same pattern seen in India, in Egypt, in Central America, knowledge, hidden not only from invaders or looters, but from time itself. In the Pyrenees, hidden deep in the mountains, local shepherds speak of shrines built into the earth, not marked on any map. Passed down orally, these locations are reached through trails not found in modern guidebooks. Within these chambers, stalactites and carvings blend, suggesting occupation far older than Christianity, and yet rituals persist. Offerings are left. Words are whispered. And no one speaks of it in the village. Europe's whispering vaults are different in tone than those of other continents. There is a sense of reclamation here, of layers built atop layers in an eternal struggle between preservation and erasure. Pagan sanctuaries buried beneath churches. Temples reconsecrated. Caves turned into crypts. But always, the descent remains. Always, the sanctified dark holds its breath. Why were so many of these chambers built? Why did so many different cultures across Europe, pagan, Christian, mystical, agree on the need to build downward? Was it simply burial? Was it reverence? Or was it a compulsion, something inherited, something felt more than understood? Some scholars argue that these vaults were built to house relics, bones, chalices, splinters of the cross. Others claim they were attempts to reach the divine by removing all distraction. But these theories fail to explain the intentional sealing, the complex acoustics, the alignment with celestial or geomantic points. They fail to address the symbolism shared across languages, time periods, and faiths. The answer, perhaps, lies in an older European memory, of a time when the world was not divided between physical and spiritual, but existed as overlapping realms. Where the divine could emerge from a tree, a cave, a breeze. Where descent was not punishment, but pilgrimage. And the vaults were not prisons, but meeting places. In the end, Europe's whispering vaults are not merely places of stone and silence. They are echoes. Reflections of an older language, one not spoken, but felt. One that called humanity downward, into the earth, into itself, to remember something it once knew before it began to forget. These vaults do not demand belief. They demand stillness. Listening. A willingness to hear the story beneath the story. And in the darkness beneath Europe's sacred temples, that story still waits to be told. Across continents and centuries, beneath stones etched with faith and fear, we have found the same thing, descent. Beneath Hindu shrines and Mayan ziggurats, beneath Egyptian pyramids and European cathedrals, humanity has always dug, not for resources or shelter, but for something else. Something older. Something hidden. Something remembered not in books, but in instinct. The whispering vaults are not anomalies. They are echoes of a single, persistent truth, that the sacred was never only above us, but always below. The deeper we went, into Padmanabhaswamy's sealed doors, into Egypt's unspoken voids, into the steppe journeys of Xibalba, into the breath of Malta's stone, we saw a pattern. Not in design, but in intention. Sacred descent was not about death. It was about access. Each chamber, each sealed room, each acoustically tuned corridor was a gesture toward contact. Not with gods in the sky, but with presences, real or remembered, that dwell in darkness. That wait in silence. That linger where the surface world no longer applies. And yet, we sealed them. Again and again. Vaults were not left open. They were closed. Sometimes elaborately, sometimes simply, but always decisively. Why? Were we afraid of what they contained? Or were we afraid of forgetting, and needed stone to remember for us? Perhaps they were not vaults at all, but contracts. Physical oaths built to last when language failed. A structure says what words cannot. A sealed door is a promise, this far, no farther. A stairway with no exit is a warning. A chamber built to echo a single human voice into every atom of a temple is not a mistake, it is communication with something that doesn't speak like we do. In each case, the guardianship was sacred. In India, priests speak of mantras long lost, whose vibration alone could open stone. In Egypt, doors were left untouched for fear of curses. In Mesoamerica, temples were constructed over wells that were never meant to be disturbed. In Europe, descent was ritualized, encoded in spiral wells and cryptic tunnels, because what waited below wasn't just history. It was memory. And memory, in its purest form, is dangerous. We were not the first to build temples. That's what the stones tell us, in their weight, in their placement. The scale of some constructions defies the civilizations credited with them. We inherited forms we barely understood. We built atop them. We mythologized what we couldn't replicate. But in the act of myth-making, we also preserve something, shadows of intent. And beneath it all, beneath every altar and offering and icon, the silence watches. Maybe that silence is intelligence. Maybe it is trauma. Maybe it is the residue of beings who once moved among us and chose to leave traces, not of their presence, but of their withdrawal. The vaults could be messages, interfaces, even quarantine zones. We don't know. We only know they persist. And that, despite our technology, many remain unopened. Because something inside us remembers the rules. It is easy to romanticize the past. To imagine priest kings with lost knowledge, tunnels glowing with forgotten light, libraries of stone. But the truth may be simpler and stranger. The ancients may not have possessed advanced machines or alien visitors. They may have simply listened better. The earth hums. The stone speaks. The darkness holds more than fear, it holds memory. The temples were not built to show what they believed. They were built to hold what they encountered. And what if that encounter continues? In modern times, stories still emerge. Of sealed rooms discovered but not opened. Of chambers that distort time or sound. Of vaults and jungles and deserts that seem to defy mapping. Most are dismissed, forgotten, buried again, by skepticism or fear or design. But if just one is true, just one, then everything we think we know is undone. And perhaps that is why the vaults remain closed. They are reminders, not invitations. Anchors, not answers. They tell us, you were here before. They ask, do you remember? And maybe we do. Maybe in dreams, or myths, or the deep stillness between thoughts, something echoes. In the end, the whispering vaults are not about what lies beneath temples. They are about what lies beneath us. Not just physically, but spiritually, intellectually, historically. What we have sealed, what we have survived, what we are not yet ready to face again. But the earth remembers. The stone remembers. And the silence? The silence never forgets.